Bleeding purple and gold. From the heart of Los Angeles, this is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's show. As always, we are powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. We have hit the middle of August. We are eagerly anticipating the start of the NBA season. And joining me today is Chris Geeter McGee of Spectrum Sportsnet. Follow him on Twitter at Geeter3, one of my favorite people to talk Lakers basketball with. Geeter, thanks so much for joining me.
Trevor, thanks for the plug right there. Probably got a couple extra followers right there, bud.
Well, I hope so. Hopefully we can help you out a little bit, right?
Yeah, our job's just got much more fun, right?
Absolutely, just a bit. I mean, hey, we've got LeBron James in town. We've got Rondo and McGee and all. I mean, what an awesome time to be a Lakers fan, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun covering, how do I say it, that interesting locker room. I mean, you got some great sound bites in there. It's going to be awesome.
It definitely is. And hey, the schedule just got released for the Lakers, so everybody's been sort of dissecting that, taking a look at all the different games, the stretches of the season. I first looked at it and I went, man, that opening stretch to the season, that's going to be tough, isn't it?
Yeah, we did a live schedule show last night and with Andy Kamenetsky and Brez, and you look at those first 10 games, what is it, 6 are in playoff teams, maybe more. I asked them the over-under on wins, and we put it at 5.5. I believe Andy went 6. Perez went right around 5. What would you sign off on right now? If I told you, Trevor, the Lakers will go 6-4 to start, would you take it right now?
I think I would take it. I mean, this is a team that's brand new, right? They've got to develop chemistry and everything. So you got to expect some bumps along the way, especially when you're looking at, I mean, they've got Portland on opening night in Portland. The Lakers haven't won there. They haven't beat them in 15 straight games. So that's going to be a tough one. And then you've got Houston, San Antonio, the Denver Nuggets are improved. You've got all these different teams that they're playing against, the Timberwolves. Yeah, I think I would take 6-4. Although, you know what? I think if that did happen, I think the national media would be having a field day. They would be claiming it's a failure, wouldn't they?
Well, that's funny. I asked that same question, and I think with Andy, it was like, no, 6 wins out of 10. I mean, with that opening lineup, I don't think so. But I was with you. I thought if it's 6-4, I guess it depends on what kind of 6-4 it is. Right. If they're losing 4 in a row after starting 6-0, then maybe. But it's interesting. I mean, if say you get 6 wins, you're probably splitting with the Spurs. You're winning 1 on the road in Portland. That's not bad, right? So I don't know. I think you're right. I think if it's 6-4, there's going to be some chatter, but I don't know what the expectations are yet because I keep going back to this. I just haven't seen this team together. I mean, we really haven't seen them at all. I mean, we've seen 4 of them, and they happen to be the youngest players. So I have no idea how this team's going to mesh. But when you look at LeBron James, you think, well, he's probably good for 5 or 6 wins himself. So it's going to be an interesting start to the season, and Luke's definitely going to have challenges trying to figure out rotations and lineups and how this team meshes. But I'll tell you what, man, those first 10 games are going to be a lot of fun.
Which games are you most excited for on the schedule? Which ones are you circling on your calendar to get ready for and really get hyped about?
You know, we had this conversation in the newsroom yesterday. What do you first look at when the schedule comes out? So for me, it's interesting how I look at it. Like, I look at it as a dad, so I look at certain days. I look at it as a host, and I look at it as a Laker fan. So I kind of combo all those things. But for some reason, my eye always goes to home opener. So I was really thrown off at Portland to start. It just didn't make that much sense to me. I've kind of been okay with it now, but for the first I don't know, I guess I knew a couple of days ago when I saw the first rough draft and schedule, like I was a little rattled at the opening against Portland. So Houston for me was a huge one. Like I kind of wanted that to be opening night. That's the one I circle, James Harden, Chris Paul coming to town, the Rockets, game away from beating the Warriors. I always look at the Warrior games. Christmas popped out to me, obviously. I think that one's, on everyone's list just because it was nice to be the marquee game again. And I was kind of getting sick and tired of watching other teams in those marquee games and just wondering when we would be back, us playing a late game against Minnesota or the Clippers.
Right.
Just didn't seem to have the same pop. So that one for sure. was circled. Obviously, I think I look at January 2nd and I look at OKC coming to town.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me. I think it's going to be a much different feel than last year in January when Paul George came to town for the first time. Kawhi
absolutely.
comes for 10 games too. So I actually looked at that one. I'm really interested to see what Toronto looks like for me, because I want to see what Kawhi looks like in a Toronto uniform. I want to see how that meshes. That's a guy that I've, loved for his entire career, just the way he plays and gets after it, and, all the rumors and all the speculation. So it's going to be hilarious to see him come back and get the ovation that Paul George got.
Oh, yeah.
So that's, because, Laker fans are phenomenal like that. So, guy goes a lock to sign. I mean, I just love that kind of stuff. So those are kind of the games I looked at. And then as a dad, I always go, damn, we're working Halloween.
Right.
It's a huge day in this house for the girls. We're working again on Halloween. Hate to miss it. It's always a bummer. You know what I looked at, Trevor? It's pretty funny. I think you'll get it. So the All-Star break is interesting, right? We don't get the whole thing off at Spectrum because we still do some shows, but it's a nice 5-day break or so. I always go out of town to Palm Desert. It's the girls are off that week. So for me, I always look, and I feel like the Lakers have just been getting raked over the coals. Like last year, they're the last game in the NBA with 3 rookies next night in the rookie, Rising Stars game. They're in Minnesota, so far from home. Like it was just such a, I don't know. I hated it. Right. I was like, oh my God, the Cavs are always getting 9 days off. It's like the LeBron rule. Well, now LeBron comes to Lakers. So I looked right away at the All-Star break. Like, this is beautiful. They're the first team that gets like 9 days off.
They've got 9 days. Yep.
So my eyes kind of go to those sort of things. And, obviously there's the other, marquee games you love to look at, how many times they're playing the Warriors and where, and, that kind of stuff. MLK is a big day for us and for everybody involved in the NBA. They're playing the Warriors at home. That's pretty cool. So those are kind of the games that I circle, just like everyone else,
Yeah, I mean, there's some really exciting games. Oh, yeah. Boston. In fact, they're going to be in Boston on my birthday. I'm thinking, man, I think I might need to take a trip out there to see that one.
Wait, is that February?
Yeah.
March, they're at home, right?
Yeah, that's February 7th. They're going to be in Boston. I'm excited for that one.
Super Bowl, buddy. Right after the Super Bowl for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Out.
That's right.
Have you done it yet? Have you been to Boston?
No, I haven't gone. I haven't made the trip to Boston. Like, I'm kind of curious. Like, how am I going to fare if I head out to Boston wearing Lakers gear? Am I going to be okay in Boston?
So check this out. I've only been to 3 games in Boston. Do you know which 3 games they were?
Oh gosh. Tell me that you were there in 2010 for one of the finals games.
Yes. So
nice. 2010.
I'm at Fox Sports West. I'm not a full-time guy. The full-time guys were Patrick O'Neill. I don't think Michael Eaves. I think Michael Eaves had just left. And Angels are going, Dodgers are going. They're all still part of that network. So I get the call that year to travel with the Lakers. So you can imagine. I mean, for me, it's the greatest.
That's the best, right?
I'm going to Phoenix. I get to go to Boston for a week. It was so glorious. It was just so fun to be out there. And my job was just to report after the game, right? I mean, Fox doesn't get the games. They're NBA finals. So we just did sound after. So, you're battling in that awful Garden locker room. It's just so small. But it was like the greatest experience. I learned so much on how to do the job that week, and just seeing everybody and kind of how you battle and position yourself and get the sound. And it was great because I'll never forget, like, after the loss in Game 5, so we're down 3-2, everyone crowded around. Now, you got to remember, Kobe's going to the podium, right? So we're not getting him. And Lamar, everyone is crowded around Lamar's locker, and Lamar comes out, and he was always really nice to me. Didn't know me well, but he knew, I'm dinner with them a couple of times, and he knew I was tight with Luke and Jordy, and it was unbelievable because there's probably 100 people around his locker, and it's so small, Trevor. And he comes in, he's buttoning his shirt, and he's bummed, right? I mean, we're down 3-2 here, and he looks and he kind of sees everybody, and I'm off a little bit to his right, and he sees me, makes eye contact, and asked me what's up, and I got to go first out of everybody there. We're talking all national guys. Here I am, local Fox Sports West postgame show, and I got Lamar's first 2 questions. So I always loved him for that and appreciated it, but it was so awesome in there. But they stuck us up. I mean, when you're media, dude, you are so high up there and you're looking down. And I just remember, I just was like, dude, I want to fight all these Boston media guys. I mean, they would complain on every, it was just like all the stuff was coming back from my childhood. I thought I was like in my living room in the 80s with my dad and brother watching Showtime and hating Larry Bird and the Celtics. It all came back. You wanted to, I mean, fans were driving me crazy. I'm in a suit and tie, but it's funny you say bringing your Laker gear because I had friends that went out there for the game and they were in full Laker gear. And I think they might've gotten a couple of scuffles on the streets or something. I don't know, but I think you'd be okay. But it is true that you would freak out on just how Boston fans are because they're just as passionate as we are, but they've never committed a foul. Everything, they hate the Lakers.
Right.
So it was a pretty amazing experience. Those are the 3 times that I went to Boston.
It's like sitting next to Tommy Heinsohn the whole time, huh?
Dude, I mean, how was he the color commentator? How was he the analyst for the final game?
Oh my gosh. he's beyond biased.
I'm telling you, I was a kid, man. I was like, 9 years old to like 18 during those Showtime years, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, you're talking formidable years. I mean, where I was like, we lived and died with those games. Yep. And Tom Heinsohn, my dad hated him from 20 years prior. We just could not stand him. And he was so blatant on like, oh, that's not a foul. I do the NBA Finals.
The guy's arms on the floor. No, that's not a foul. Come on, ref.
Yeah. Those are glory years, man.
Let me ask you this, because for me, growing up, I grew up during the Showtime era, and I remember, the earliest memory I have is of sitting on the couch with my dad and watching the Showtime Lakers. I want to see if you did the same thing. My dad used to go and get his little radio, and he would turn down the sound on the TV and then turn on the radio so he could listen to Chick. Did you do the same thing?
100%. 100%. We did it later in life when I was like living in an apartment in Santa Monica. When Chick was still going in the 90s, we would do that just because that's what we all did. We would do that just for fun because we loved it. I mean, you always wanted to say, I turn it down to hear Vin. I turn it down to hear Chick. I mean, It was like exactly what we did the same thing, Trevor. Exact same thing.
I think it was just like it was part of the Showtime era that I guess you kind of had to have lived it to remember that. But it seems strange by today's standards to do that. But that was Chick Hearn. Like he was the guy to listen to. He was kind of the soundtrack to our lives growing up, right?
I mean, when Magic does the baby hook, Magic across the lane hook, just what I thought. I mean, Chick saying just what I thought. I mean, it's pretty amazing that he could throw that in, mid play. Listen, people have probably heard these stories and I'm not trying to bore fans going down memory lane, but these are the things that shape you as fans. And I just, I can clearly remember Magic hitting that hook and my brother and I, he's 5 years older, literally sprinting down the street. We ran out of the house and it was like, nighttime and we're just arms up running down Gilmore Street in the Valley. And I didn't even know Larry had a look to win the game. Until, you know what I mean? Like
he almost hit that too.
Yeah. You know what's so funny about that? Just to bring everything full circle. When I met Big Game James at Spectrum, it was Time Warner, of course. Then we hadn't launched yet, and I had met him previously a couple times, but he didn't know who I was. I knew I'd met Big Game a few times, but doing the business, but we never spent time together. So like the first time we ever got to hang out, he comes by Time Warner and, everyone's excited. Big Game's here. And we spent like an hour together and literally like in the hallway, he's telling the story of that play and Bird, he knew Larry was getting the ball, but how Larry pushed off and he knew he was going to do it and he still couldn't stop him. And Larry had a look and he said, when Larry released it, his head just went down and he thought that's going in. And like, you see the play and that's exactly what happened. So it's awesome to like hear Big Game James telling me the story. And it's funny. I like texted a couple buddies. I'm like, you guys aren't going to believe this. I was like, Big Game was just going over the entire, game 4 of the finals. So it was just, a surreal moment for me where I realized, wow, I can't believe I have this job.
That's when you're just kind of sitting there pinching yourself. Yeah. You've got James Worthy talking about that moment. I mean, that's the best. So let's, you mentioned Magic. Actually, this is kind of a random fact, but there is a strange connection, and I can relate to this, between, since we brought him up, Larry Bird and LeBron James, and also Russell Westbrook. And I'm curious if you know about this. This is LeBron James is left-handed, and so is Larry Bird, and so is Russell Westbrook. Yet they all play basketball right-handed, and I think that's so interesting when you watch their games and the way they develop, because they're really left-handed, but they just shoot with their right hand. I think it's actually a little bit of an advantage.
And by the way, you're talking about Larry, who's top of all time shooters.
Right.
I mean, Larry Bird, his name always pops up there, and LeBron has made himself into one, right? Russell Westbrook's gotten so much better. That used to be the knock on him. That truly is incredible.
It is.
They can also unbelievable left hands, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Helps them out a ton. I'm actually the opposite. I'm totally right-handed, but I always played basketball left-handed. Not that I'm anywhere near that level, but so I could totally relate to those guys and understand that there's some advantages, because your offhand on the court is stronger than most people would think. So we see LeBron go left a lot, and yeah. Yeah,
that is such a trip. It's so funny you said. I wish because my wife's like that, and I really wish the kids were, but they're just all dominant, right? And I always was like, God, force it.
It actually helped me out a lot in volleyball as well, because I could hit left-handed better than I could right-handed, which was kind of fun.
That's amazing. But you were a right-handed hitter, like you.
Oh yeah, I served right-handed. Everything. Actually, I'm coaching a team right now, and my right shoulder is hurt, so I've been serving left-handed the entire season, and no problem.
Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing, actually.
It's been fun. Great. But we're going to take a quick break to talk about Uptime energy drinks. Uptime has been the energy supplement choice for people with demanding lifestyles. We use the best blend of ingredients to provide you with the energy and focus you need without the side effects. Maximize your performance with Uptime. Whether you need mental clarity, physical stamina, or added focus, our carefully selected ingredients will help you excel no matter what the task. You can pick up Uptime energy drinks at GNC, 7-Eleven, or order them online at Amazon.com. Let's talk Magic. You brought him up, his little his baby hook, or his junior sky hook. And
Junior Sky Hook.
Yeah, the Junior Sky Hook, that was so nice. But you guys did the show with Magic and Rob Pelinka right after we found out about LeBron. And I was always wondering, when you guys did that, you guys had a chance, I'm sure, to talk a little bit off camera. Now, Magic and Pelinka were excited, but they seemed a little bit more reserved. They had to be official and everything. How fired up is Magic Johnson really about landing LeBron James? Did you guys get in any kind of a discussion or anything like that?
It's funny you say that. Usually you do have a little more time beforehand, and it was such a busy day, I'm sure, for them. We're ready. They come in, you usher them in, you get a minute beforehand, and it was just, but it was interesting how when we finished, and Magic was on a flight to Vegas for Summer League, and so was Rob. When we finished and we're taking off all the stuff, I just went up to him and kind of, he was saying goodbye. I put up my hand. I was like, this is incredible, isn't it? And he was like, he had that smile, that Magic smile. And he's like, I told you we'd be back. And that's the beauty, for me, Paul George, that first night, I mean, that was a blow, we thought, right? Like,
yeah,
we didn't know anything. Nobody did. And, we're going on air at 9:00 live, and, Magic is at LeBron's house.
And we had no idea.
We had no idea. And I just go back to, when he took the job and him saying, we're going to get this thing back because I don't know any other way. I remember when Luke took the job and Luke saying, we're going to get back. Whatever it takes, however long it takes. Rob saying the same thing, Jeannie. I mean, the Lakers were committed to finding a way back. And you feel like those steps have been taken. I mean, I personally felt like those steps were taken after last season. I mean, I loved last season. I don't know if I'm in the minority, but I thought last season was incredible. So
compared to what we've been through the previous 4 years, absolutely.
There was just something different, something changed. You could see it. You could actually see it and feel it defensively, and
there was
young guy.
There was a Lakers identity again. They had a game plan going forward, whereas before it didn't really feel like that.
Yeah, it didn't. So let's go back to your original thing, like just those moments with Magic and Rob. And listen, it was busy. They were in and out. But yeah, there was that moment where I was like, Magic, this is incredible. And he's like, listen, we're back. I told you we'd be back. We're getting there. It was like you just had this
goosebumps.
Magic, right? So it was just cool. And I thought they were honest with us. And I thought it was really cool to be the first ones to talk to them. And get as much detail as we could about, that night.
We talk about these moments. We talk about, I remember where I was when moments. You remember where you were when Magic hit his junior sky hook. And of course you think of Robert Horry's 3 over the Kings, or Derek Fisher's .4, or Kobe's 81 or 60, or like I remember the Pau Gasol trade. I'll never forget where I was when that happened. Is the LeBron signing I remember where I was when moment? Will you always remember where you were when you heard the LeBron signing happened?
% because remember the night before it was kind of the wind out of our sails type of show with no news except Paul George leaving, and we're off the air at 10 o'clock. Everyone's kind of bummed or just a little surprise shocked, even though I had heard Paul George wasn't coming. It's just the way it went down at 20 minutes before 9 p.m. We didn't get a meeting, so the next day it's the afternoon. Still nothing. I mean, you're hearing that they're meeting with the Sixers. They haven't even met with the Lakers yet. And it was funny because I'm on my way to pick up the girls, my wife and 2 daughters, from the airport. We were in Phoenix for the volleyball festival, which you probably know about. It's a big club tournament, and it's my daughter's team. And I had to leave the day before from the tournament to go do that show. So they flew in the next early evening, late afternoon. I was literally talking to Brez, and Brez and I were on the phone, and we were talking about, like, LeBron, what are you hearing? What's next? And really, we hadn't heard that much. And, they're still confident about LeBron. There's still this, there's still that. But we hadn't even gotten a meeting yet in our eyes. All of a sudden, John Hartung of the Dodgers, who works for us, John Hartung sent a text to me and Brez that said, wow, 154, was it 154 million? Or whatever it was with LeBron. 154 million. We got him. And Brez reads it to me because I'm on the phone with him. He popped up on his phone. I immediately was like, what? And I pulled over on my way to the airport. And I'm like, we're like, oh my God. I'm like, I'll call you back. Look at the text. And I'm like freaking out. All of a sudden I'm on Twitter. I literally have the dog in the car. I pulled over on on Vista Del Mar, heading to the airport. And I'm like, oh my God, we got him. I get in the car. I start the car. I head to the airport. I'm literally turning left into LAX there on Sepulveda, and the phone rings, and it's my boss, AJ. And he's like, mobilize, get in here. We got him. I'm like, oh my God, we got him. He's like, we're on air in an hour. I literally flipped an illegal U-turn. I'm back now heading south on Sepulveda. I'm 3 minutes from my family. I call my wife. She answers, and she's on the tarmac taxiing. And I'm like, we got LeBron. I'm like literally screaming in the phone. We got LeBron. She's like, oh my God, you did? Wait, what? I'm like, we got LeBron. Get in an Uber. I got to go home and get ready. And she's like, oh, okay. And I was like, I was home and I was in the office within a half hour. Called Kenny, my cab driver, and he came and got me because I didn't know. He couldn't even waste time with Uber. I said, Kenny, you need to be at the house.
Right.
Boom. This time I'm shouting. He took me, I swear to you, Trevor, 165 texts. 165 texts when I'm on air. By the time I get there and I'm on air. I couldn't answer the phone that fast. I couldn't even text people. It was like, get ready for a show, do our thing. I walked in the newsroom, I'm screaming at people, going nuts, and it was on. I just couldn't believe that he was actually coming.
It was such an amazing moment. I think I texted you probably, and it was
for sure.
It was just this amazing moment. I can't believe that for one thing, you were so excited that you couldn't drive your car. You had to pull over to deal with the moment.
Over. I was like, I mean, I can't say it on the phone. Holy blank, like, Hartung just said 154 million. We got him. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, LeBron. I'm like, no. And all of a sudden, I'm like, dude, I'll call you back. And I like pull over, and I got to confirm this. And then the phone just started going nuts. So I start the car back up, and I'm like, I'm 7 minutes from LAX, and I'm like flying down, Imperial Highway there, right from the beach, and literally making a left into LAX, literally making a left. And the boss called, and I don't even know how my car got around, but next thing you know, I'm going south on Sepulveda, bud, and I'm storming back home, screaming at people. Awesome.
That's so funny because I asked Luke that question during Summer League, and he was just talking about how it was kind of a lazy afternoon, and he was in his backyard, and just Luke being Luke, he was I was excited about it, of course, and that type of thing. I think your reaction is a lot more representative of what most Lakers fans actually did.
It's funny. I talked to Luke a lot more recently than during that month of July. I didn't have much contact with him at all outside of some text messages. He was at Summer League. I went to Croatia, and but I feel like for him, you have a chance to coach one of the all-time greats. Luke's a competitive guy. I think he welcomes that challenge. I think he's so pumped, but I'm sure, and I don't know this for a fact, but, at that time, there's a lot going on. Like, Julius Randle's gone. People that you become attached to, right? So he just plays it cool, right? He never really, I think that's why he's a special talent at what he does too. He's never going to go too up or down. And that's always what I've liked about Luke. Ryan Hollins was on our air the other day, and he did a really good job. And it's the first time he'd ever been on there. But, he's like, listen, I was seat mates with Luke when we were in Cleveland, and I know him real well. And that's what I've always loved about him. He's cool Luke. He's good under pressure, not going to let too much rattle him, confident in his own skin. So I think this is going to be an unbelievable experience for him. I mean, getting to coach LeBron James.
Well, let's wrap up with this. Let's talk about, what does success look like this season in your mind for Luke and for the Lakers?
Stop asking me great questions that I like to ask everybody else. That's good. It's a good one, Trev, because I feel like I'm going to be asking that a lot come late September, early October. That's what I'll be asking people. So I should put thought into that answer. Without having seen the team. Okay, so I've not seen the team together, right? So let's preface that,
right?
Because it's hard to know until you see what they look like on the court. I think success. What I would sign up for right now, like if they get to 50 wins, they're 51, 52, 50 wins, and they're hosting a first-round playoff series and winning, and then playing a Golden State or a Houston of that caliber in the second round, and you're competitive, whether you fall short or not, I feel like that's a success. I mean, they get to the Western Conference Finals, Luke's Coach of the Year. I just think there's going to be time to mesh. I feel like it's going to, I feel like you'll have some ups and downs, but I feel like they're going to be, I don't know. It's funny. I look at the 48 wins and I go, man, they were 35 last year and should have 41, but that's shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? But it's like, you and I know, and our fans know, because we watch every game, like how close they were, how the injuries really decimated them at the end, but how good they were for a 2-month stretch when they were healthy. So I think of that, and I know it's not the same team that you just added LeBron, but it's like, man, you bring LeBron James into the mix, I mean, this team's got to be around 48, 50 wins. So
yeah, you would think.
Yeah, that to me would be success. I'm not putting them in the NBA Finals. I'm not saying they're the second best team in the league yet. I think there's potential to be really good when it counts at the end. If everyone can stay patient and let this team get there, then I think that that's a possibility, and I think that's success. So success for me this year is that. Get to that second round, win a playoff series, and be in the hunt and have an opportunity to get to that Western Conference Finals. If you can do that, man, that's a major success. success.
Agree 100%. I think that would be a successful season. Young guys, especially if the young guys are looking good, right? If Lonzo Ball and Kyle Kuzma and Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, if these guys are all able to make the leap, and then to at least to get to that next level, and then you've got LeBron James in the mix as well. You've got that foundation to build around. I think that's got to be a successful season. Even though I feel like the national media feels like now it's they've got LeBron and it's either championship or bust. I just don't really look at it that way.
That's so unrealistic because you still have major players on your team that are huge piece and parts of your team, pieces and parts, and they're under 21 years old. So it's not too often a team that young can win, even with a LeBron James. So I think these young guys are going to be great with him. I think it's going to take time to adjust. Listen, it's an adjustment, and people have to understand that. When you play with one of the all-time greats, things change. Mm-hmm. Expectations change. How you play changes. He's going to have the ball a lot more in his hands. So there is an adjustment period. But I truly believe Kuz, B.I., Josh Hart, Lonzo, I think these guys are going to thrive with him. I mean, I really do. I'm not saying that because of my allegiance to the Lakers. I just really believe it. My one, thought going in is I hope Lonzo's ready. I don't know what's going on with the knee, but I feel like, this is kind of a bummer summer in terms of that, and you can't prepare for that, right? It happened, and you want him fully healthy before rushing him back. So that's why Rondo's a huge acquisition. For me, I'm in no hurry to run Lonzo back, but I really, really am anxious and excited to see him with LeBron. So I want him back, but I don't want to rush it back, if that makes sense.
Sure, yeah, definitely. I mean, the Lakers have said that he'll be back for training camp, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully he's 100% and ready to go, because I think Rondo's really going to push him, and we're going to get the best out of Lonzo because Rondo is there to make him step up his game even further.
What's interesting is this year, I was saying this the other day on one of the shows, this year is different than what we're used to these last few years as Laker fans. It's been about development of the young players, mm-hmm. and who's playing fourth quarter and having to battle on social media because Lakers got to win, but D'Angelo was sitting, or Lonzo may have been sitting, or you know what I mean? I was always so, I hated those kind of conversations. We'd have battles in our own newsroom about it. Because for me, it was like, man, we're trying to win games though also, right? Like, I know we're developing, but, and I battled with it too, I remember Lakers losing some really close games, but the young guys played great. And I thought to myself, man, I'll take it, It
was a good loss.
Here I am. Yeah, I'm a competitive dude, but mm-hmm. I'm okay with it if our young guys are getting better. Now things change for all of us. Like, we're changing our mindset. It's about winning games.
Yep.
It's about playoffs. Development, great, but you're either developing and on board or you're not. It's no more about like, oh, the fourth quarter, well, I don't want to hurt his feelings. He better be in there. I don't want to lose confidence. Absolutely not. You're either delivering or you're not. And that's what it's about. And that's where Luke's going to have to also, adjust, right? Because it's about winning games.
Oh, his job changes so much this season.
Oh yeah, winning games. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome season. I mean, it's exciting that now finally the Lakers are back to, you don't have to worry about development or any of that. It's either you can or you can't. And bottom line, Lakers basketball means winning basketball, and that's a great feeling to be back there, especially given where they've come from in these last few years.
By the way, real quick, how brutal is the West, man? We put up those, standings that Kevin Pelton had on East. Yep. It was like, oh my God, and you do look and you go, it really isn't a lock to make the playoffs. It's insane. It's one injury and you could be out of the.
It could come down to one or two games, one shot that rims out. I mean, that could make the difference. That's how tight the Western Conference is going to be this year. It's ridiculous.
What was 3 through 8 last year? Separated by 2 games, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
A couple games like that. I feel that coming down, man. I feel that's what it's going to be.
Yep. Yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully, I mean, the Lakers could realistically, they could wind up third. They could even end up second if the Rockets take a step back.
Yep.
I mean, they could be at 7th. They could be 8. I mean, who knows?
I agree.
All right. Well, Geeter, thank you so much for spending time coming on here, man. I really appreciate it. I know you gotta run, but this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us here and giving us your Lakers insight.
Let's do it again when camp starts.
Absolutely. That sounds good. And everybody make sure you go follow Chris McGee at Geeter3 on Twitter and check out his work on Spectrum Sportsnet. That's going to wrap things up for today. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next week with a new show. You can follow me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane and make sure you head over to LakersNation.com for everything Lakers. See ya.